everybody, my name is Mark Ilsley. Welcome to the first episode of The Black Hole. Tonight's show will be a small presentation from myself, then we'll be taking a look, having to see what is currently interesting in regards to objects, various targets, and taking a look at a few things from the news over the past week or so. So let's get started. So my main interest when it comes to astronomy is deep sky astrophotography. Started this out a few years ago doing wide field Milky Way shots, astro landscapes such as the one in this image, and it slowly progressed from there. So over the last few years it's been slowly building up until I finally got a dedicated setup about 2 years ago. Living in West Wales, we have some very dark sky sites available, and my location is pretty decent as well. From about 11 o'clock at night, the local street lights just down in the village from where I live are all turned off. So everything was going great until this happened earlier this year. Freak storm during the spring, and lifted the roof off whilst it was still locked down. Obviously also blew out the whole front of the observatory and decided to sprawl things out amongst the garden. So at that point I was very tempted at just calling it quits. After speaking to a number of people and letting the fact that so much hard work had just come to a grinding halt, utter devastation, I decided enough was enough. So I began the rebuild. Slightly different design this time. Where I live in West Wales is very much right on the coast, so high winds are frequent, and my current location is actually very much like a wind tunnel and funnels the wind as well, especially if it's a westerly. So something with a roll-off roof I just couldn't take the chance of again. So I went with a slightly different design. So the new design was a 4x3 complete roll-off observatory. Custom concrete pier, 240 volts AC mains power, 12 volt DC and USB power supplies, gigabit Ethernet is wired into the office here, and I'm lucky that I have a fibre connection for doing remote access, etc. The dedicated PC for the observatory was a custom built one and runs everything fantastic. So hardware wise I have two main setups, a summer and a winter setup. My main winter setup is a Skywatcher 130 PDS 5-inch Newtonian. That is now coupled with an MPCC coma corrector and a recent addition is the QHY8L one-shot colour called CCD camera, which, to be fair, I've been over the moon with in this short time if I've actually used it. That is guided with a HEQ5 mount, which has been modified with the belt drive system and tuned by dark frame optics. The actual guide system for that is a QHY5L2M mono camera with a 9x50 guide scope. I still use the 600D for various things. A lot higher resolution than the QHY8L and is more suited for full frame images, for solar work and lunar work. The second setup that I use is going to be for mainly spring and summer for small galaxies and planetaries season. That is the Meade LX10 8-inch SCT, and that primarily for planetary imaging is coupled up with an ASI 224 MC, which is a colour planetary camera. I do sometimes get asked as to why I chose colour versus mono. A lot of it has been a gradual step up, but in many cases as well, it's very much down to weather. The fact that I can get an image and get a full set of images without having to worry about filters at this present moment in time is the way forward for me. Other people may think different. The other scope that I use, which is a recent addition as well, is a SkyMax 102 Maxitoff. That is my primary grab and go scope. So that is mainly be used with lunar and solar transits. If I'm away on holiday, that can just get put in the car and put on a tripod. However, it also piggybacks really nicely with the 130 PDS. As far as software and how everything's controlled, my main imaging software is APT. It's something I've used for the past few years now and has never let me down. It is pretty much an all-in-one solution as far as the actual imaging side of things. It will do the capture, it will do go-tos, it will do plate solving, and for the money, about 15 British pounds, not expensive at all when you compare it to some of the other packages that are on the market. One piece of software I'm currently testing is relatively new, Nina, completely free, and I must say I've been very impressed so far. There are still a few things that I'm working out with it as to whether or not it will be my replacement for APT, but early signs are very good indeed. I would highly recommend anybody that's looking for a free, very good imaging system, check out Nina. I will put a link in the description afterwards for this as well. PHT2 is my main guiding software. Again, self-explanatory really. Never had an issue with it. The only issues that I have ever come across have always been down to other things such as drivers, compatibility issues, that side of thing. but PhD2 has never missed a beat. As far as Stellarium goes, I use Stellarium as my main planetarium software. I will also use it for go-tos when needed alongside APT. SharpCap is my main polar alignment software along with a PoleMaster. However, being on a pier doesn't need to be done that often, so I always check it once every couple of months just in case, especially living on an area with such a sandy base. There is always a chance of small movements. I also use it for lunar imaging and some planetary imaging. However, with the fairly recent addition of an ADC or an atmospheric version corrector, the main choice now has been fire capture because it has an ADC function built in. I have also found that when using it with RAM buffers, that I can get higher sustained frame rates from it. So if anybody's having issues with SharpCap with higher end systems, such as systems that have already got SSDs and a decent amount of RAM, and you're still having frame rate issues, sustained frame rate issues, I would highly recommend fire capture. SharpCap is very good at some things. Their new or relatively new live stacking is second to none. But for sheer frames per second, fire capture, in my honest opinion, wins out. The actual mount itself, the pointing model, and a few other things that can be done through it is controlled via EQ mod. That allows you to set up custom home points, custom parking points. There is a PEC correction system built into that as well, so you don't have to rely on a handset. PEC being periodic error correction. Exactly the same as the handset. You set it once and you forget about it. As far as this stream and other streams going forward, I will be using ODS. I do apologise, OBS. And for remote desktop, for when I'm doing the imaging, I use TeamViewer. So here are a few images that I've taken with the new observatory, the new setup since the little issue. Not had a chance to get out much, really, due to bad weather here in the UK. But it hasn't been a complete loss. This year also seen my first ever attempt at doing an ISS solar transit, which was a little bit daunting, but definitely something I'm going to be going and tackling again. The planning and setup, bearing in mind that these transits, and as such the one in the photo, is about this grand total of about 1.4 seconds. So very much critical planning is needed and hoping that everything just works. This was actually the first image I got out of the new QHY camera. At this present moment in time, it wasn't optimally set up. I'm using at present a MPCC coma corrector, and in this shot you look in the corners, there is still a little bit of coma because the distancing wasn't quite correct. QHY, again in this shot, was cooled down to -15 degrees, which seems to be a good temperature that I can hit all year round. One thing I didn't want to have to do is to have multiple sets of darks for summer, winter, depending on how warm or cold it was outside, whether or not the camera could hit the target. This is the most recent image. Again, after a little bit of playing around as far as the distancing between the coma corrector and the camera, there was a bit of an issue with this in that the moon was out. However, it was probably one of the only times I've had a chance to get out with a clear sky, so I wasn't going to waste it. And a little bit of testing, a few things changed, and I came out with this, which, considering less than an hour of imaging, I was very pleased with indeed. And this one is of a recent comet, which I will go into a little bit more in a minute. So, just having a look just to see what we can get this up for you now. The comet in that last image was Comet 2018 W2 Africano. It is not the brightest comet we've had this year. However, I would highly recommend you take a look at it. It's currently in Pisces going towards Aquarius. If anybody's requiring locations for either visual or imaging, stellarium and most of the other planetarium and cataloguing softwares will be able to do up-to-date locations for it. Minor Planet Center has got daily updates with it as well. The other one that we'll be looking at, the other interesting thing that is coming up, which is actually ongoing as we speak, is the Draconid meteor shower, which peaks on the 8th. I will, weather permitting, be doing a live stream on the 8th, and I would highly recommend that you tune in, take a look. Hopefully I'll have a live video based stream. One thing I will also have is something that I've recently set up, which is a radio based Graves radar system. Something we can take a look at a later date, and I will see if I can get somebody on the show to maybe talk about the setup a little bit better than I can. If you're interested in actually seeing thank you, everybody. And so this is only the first one of hopefully many to come. Have a good evening.